Sharon Urusaro Kalimba is a screenwriter. She's a journalist by profession. She focuses on educational storytelling through art. She's an enthusiast and a member of the poetry and spoken word community here in Rwanda. She's passionate about creative work, inclusive creative work. Sharon, lovely meeting you, first of all.
Nice meeting you too.
Let's talk about this film. Wow. Different themes that you were able to explore in this piece, and I want to know what the inspiration was for you going into the creative process. A lot of focus on social relationships and how the pandemic seemed to affect different areas of that. You do follow two characters, a young man and a young woman, and showcase their relationship and the hit it takes because of the uncertainty of the pandemic. Why that?
Thank you. For me to base the whole story on that is life went on, even though we are in a virus. Social relationships are a very vital part of anyone's social life. And I feel like even though I had the choice to tell other different stories, but I feel like this is the story I could tell better than anything else. I could have maybe chosen to deal with poverty or other themes, but this one I feel like it hit home for me most. And social relationships were affected in a way that the virus is there, but they still have to go on. It's not like people's hearts got closed off just because we don't have a virus. People still got married, people still had kids, people still gave birth, and this is something that still had to go on. And now, how do you start to date a person, or how you start to reminisce about some past mistakes you made in your relationships, and you're like, what if I try this again? What if this person we could try this again now that we have time? So I feel like personally it hit home for me. I based the story on my own personal story, but also other people's stories put together, because I might have faced something, but maybe a close friend met something differently. But if you get the theme together, we still had guys texting you anyhow. We still wanted to pursue some interests, and I wanted to explore that just casually too. Also, something I cannot go without mentioning is that in as much as we were exploring these relationships, I want to say that grief and how breakups are dealt with is a very key thing that I wanted to explore in this, and how personal it is to people. Because I didn't want to give people like this is how someone has to deal with it. I wanted the people who are viewing it, when you are thinking about your own breakup, where did it transport you?
Yes.
Did you feel like the loss you felt? When you're seeing it, did you think about your own, or how you felt disconnected in a way? That's something I just wanted to make it personal. As you're watching, think about yourself.
I like the way you explore the past breakup experiences of these two characters. We see the young lady trying to get back to herself. She goes back to the yoga, she puts her art online, and she's discovering this other side to her. But also there's a moment in there where the young man says, I am sorry. It's a powerful moment, and he says, I had no choice. Creating and crafting that scene, where were you at?
I'm always very interested when we are watching movies and we see that people have different sides of the stories. And most of the time, when you're viewing a movie, you're like, this guy is a bad guy, or this person did him dirty, you know? But sometimes, if someone can show you that this person was a student in the first place, now I'm not studying anymore, now even the job I had is not there anymore.
Yes.
So can I let the viewer make that decision themselves and be like, you know what, this guy maybe actually, he did the difficult work, but when you see it, you're like, yeah, he's actually wasting her time. So I wanted to let him have his side. If you think it's fair, it's up to you, and if you also think it's fair, it's also up to you. But the whole message is, yes, the pandemic gave us different ways to go through it. In as much as love is in the equation, but what do you do when you're not going to be able to pay your rent?
Yes.
What are you going to be doing if you're loving someone, but you can see that, I don't know, maybe 2025 might find me still confined in this house. So how do I go through that? I would rather not waste someone's time or just be clear that, oh, this is so uncertain for me and this is what it is.
This is a different style that we're seeing from you. It's an acted movie. Why this particular direction?
Yes, I made this decision because the style that I wanted to make is more in a minimalist sense and just very private moments that people have. You can see the guy just going through all these moments, and it is, for me, it's just a creative decision that I made, that if an actor is very much quick to enter into that character than to teach someone from afresh that you're going to act like your life is messed up in this time. So talking to actors was easier for me, and also, yeah, it was just a creative decision that I made.
Going into this project, always you start and the story takes you where the story goes. What are some of those moments that you didn't have in the beginning of this project that sort of you allowed the creative process kind of draw you to that line?
I like that question because the ending scene of the guy dancing, we were just having a break and he decided he wanted to dance. All of a sudden, I took that just, impulsively. I was like, let me put the camera there and he's just going to dance. And I'm very happy that today's panelists and the whole conversation was on dance and moving your body. And also, I think I missed the moment of asking questions, but movement can have many alternatives. Like you can see this lady is not a dancing person, but yoga makes her move herself in different ways. So I feel like the two...
And it contributes to her healing process.
Yes, it does contribute to her healing process. And this dancing of the guy, I feel like it just fell in the moment for me. And it was just, I feel like that was one of the things that I like to film impulsively.
Wow. Yes. It's an amazing film, I have to say. But at the beginning of this session, I talked about the University of Global Health Equity and its partners supporting the production of these 4 films, yours being one of them, and sort of attaching a lot of importance to visualizing the virus. Why, in your opinion, do you think this is important? And sort of to back on that, you taking the decision that this is a project you wanted to be part of and help with the documenting of this historical moment.
Thank you very much. With the partnership of University of Global Health and Equity, not only did I get to learn that I'm going through a historical time in itself, put aside the funds, put aside the people who are going to love it or not, I don't know. But knowing myself, I had the moments to sit down with myself and be like, you know what, I'm filming a pandemic. So it's the same way that you see people are filming famines around the world or other crises in the world. So for me, this is a historical time. And I think I mentioned earlier that yesterday at the day 3 of this festival, we had a chance to go to the Kigali Photography Center. And while I was with one of my friends, he mentioned that if our kids are going to be viewing these photos, these films, these documentaries in the next 10 years, they will truly understand that this is actually a historical time we're going through. It might not hit us that bad now, but let's say in 2030s, we will know that this is a time that hit the whole world. And this is, we are used to going to museums of separate countries where they face things specifically as a country, even the same for us. But knowing that this is something that faced the entire world, whoever is someone in Ukraine, someone in Kampala, they all went through the same thing at the same time, and we lost people, we lost our loved ones, and we are still getting to see numbers increase day by day. So I feel like this is a historical time, and I do not take it for granted at all that I got to contribute.
Well, we appreciate that you did. The other thing that I wanted to sort of touch is the issue of filming and the challenges that are encountered, because this is a very uncertain time, right, that all of this is happening. It's not the normal life that we used to experience. What are some of the challenges you encountered? during this project making?
Some of the challenges that I faced myself before I even decide to like get the camera and start shooting was, why do I want it to be a very, is this something centered around just two people? And as people living in Rwanda, we are always tempted to not show emotions. We
Yes.
would rather tell you that, oh, hey, this is something happening to everyone, this is something happening to everyone. So I had to make a choice. Do you want to make people look like, oh, the COVID didn't hit us, but do you want, if you want to show that it hit them, how do you want to show that? So the challenge was, what pictures do I want to make, and what are the moments that I want to capture the most, and which can be a recurring thing that we're seeing. If I want to make it a sad movie, then go into it and make it that sad. And so the challenges were knowing, even I myself had to check in with myself and be like, when I'm not okay, how do I look? How do I sound?
Yes.
Does my speech start to be like, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, or am I that enthusiastic? If I'm talking about a person I like, but still I have to, you can tell when someone doesn't see a future in the people they are dating, or you can tell when they're enthusiastic about it. So the challenge was really being honest with myself and to be like, yeah, this is not it, or how did it hit me? So mostly like the moments where people are sitting in a corner, or where people are just staring blank in the air, like, I don't know, where is life going?
Yeah.
So so capturing the simple things that you can relate to. So you can see yourself when you're sitting on the couch and you're like, what is happening? So capturing such things was challenging because I had to choose to lay that out, and it's not something that in the Rwandan cinema we see a lot.
A lot, yes, absolutely.
We would rather see people doing happy things.
Yes.
And I wanted to see sad things. That's what I wanted to see. Yeah.
Well, definitely the way that you showcase how these two characters are dealing with grief is something that truly resonated with me. What are your biggest take-homes from making this film? What do you feel like you, as a person, was one or two, but the greatest lessons you walked away with?
The greatest lesson for me was, you don't really have to be outwards if you're not an outward person. And I liked what we were saying here today. It seemed more like people exercise more. I want to hang out again. I want to be in community again. I want to fit in again, or maybe I'm learning something new again. So the normal for most people, I feel like it's going in the direction of how can I meet people again.
Yeah.
But then I feel like the biggest lesson for me, and I feel for people who used to be like as extroverted as possible, I feel like the COVID was a chance to learn to be alone, learn to be intent alone.
You actually showcase these two individuals at the beginning of the movie, because you start shooting and showcasing how they're interacting with the pandemic from the onset. Yes, and we see a young lady kind of sort of lost in the moment. Why is that particular thing important to you, to showcase that particular kind of emotion and interaction?
It's a personal style in itself, and I know that there's a huge part of the community that is not as outwards, and I want to speak for them, because I myself am not that extroverted. It's just maybe a few people that I get to connect with from time to time. That is if I am allowing myself to go out there. And it's not a bad thing, and it's not also like a good thing, like I'm advocating for you. People should be, what I'm saying is, even the people who are outwards, can you learn to be intent inwards? And the people who were already there, it's okay, be that. Let no one rush you into, I have to go back again, I have to. So this is I feel like it has been a testing time for who are you really, when there's no one around, or when you don't have to prove anything to anyone.
Well, you talk a lot about the impact for you and the lessons from a personal point of view, but what about as a creative? Putting this project together, what was your biggest lesson that you feel you can walk away with and even inject that in your future projects?
I I would like to touch on the fact that also the COVID has shown us that we are very dependent on artists. That when you're alone, you want to read a book, you want to read a movie, but you don't get to think about the people who create that, who are the artists, whether they're painters, whether they're pianists, whatever art they're doing. And as a creative or as a person in the art, the lesson that I've got is you are carrying people, but also remember that you have to nourish yourself. I feel like it was also another moment for us to see how much the world depends on you. Yeah. And also it's a time for, can you treasure us more now? Like, yeah. You want to enjoy these things you're singing, but the person who, like, the lady is an artist, you can see that people might consume her work, but what does she do when she can't deliver anymore? What does she do when she can't get work or jobs anymore? So can the world start to treasure? It was the first time in the world for us to know that, hey, you're not an essential worker. Like, all this time I've been doing nothing, I don't know. So can the world start to treasure people who do these things? Can we get paid more? Can we get essential now?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can hear a few giggles in the audience. So I guess that people here tonight do agree with you. Before I open the floor to ask the audience to come forth and ask a few questions, anybody that wants to have Sharon answer anything concerning the film, I want to kind of ask you sort of a general question I've been asking most of the artists here at the festival, on and off the camera. Do you feel that in terms of visualizing the virus, the arts community has done a fairly good job in capturing this moment in its entirety? And I know the pandemic is still unfolding. There are legs and hands and nails growing, but where we are now, do you feel like a fairly good job has been done by the global arts community?
I would say yes, because people are no longer, they no longer want to be in the box of, hey, I'm an artist, now I can shoot something, or hey, I'm a filmmaker, I can shoot something. When you go on YouTube and everywhere, you can see random, ordinary people just taking things on their phones, they're filming something that touched them. People have been innovating things that you've never even thought about. People have joined communities in different ways. And I feel like, yes, artists have really tried their best. I feel in the next few years, with how many people are joining, the way people you can film anything anyhow. You can take a picture, you can record, you can sing. It's no longer a field of just people who maybe went to school for this. And people really try their best to capture moments, either masks, either places that are empty, to show that we're going through a very different time. Yeah, I would say yes. Yes.
Awesome. And of course, the issue that has been, the question that has been asked over and over again, the platform and the ability to create can be a double-edged sword. What we saw during this pandemic is a lot of misinformation, and also the power that artists like you hold in their hands, because storytelling can be very powerful. Somebody stepped up earlier and asked the question about how the public is interacting with some of the work that is being created. And in that sense, the responsibility, they say, heavy is the head that holds the crown, that you carry as the custodian of this story that you're telling and how it impacts and affects the people at the end of the day. Do you feel like in terms of what was achieved with visualizing this pandemic, that again, the arts community did a fairly good job to not misinform and maybe in some instances correct the misinformation? Do I feel? Yes. Do you feel like the global arts community did a fairly good job in terms of putting out the right message and in some instances correcting the misinformation that is out there?
Well, mostly the misinformation comes from, I wouldn't just be like the media mostly, but even the artists who had the platforms to portray things, it's not like they had any other kind of interest from it, and I think that's something that most people can get to misdirect people in different directions.
Yes, yes.
But if that's how you can tell different artists. If you have a good intention, it shows.
Yeah.
If it's not a pure intention, it also shows. So I wouldn't say it's a whole 100% that, oh, they all did amazing. I know that there's definitely somewhere that artists fell short and maybe misdirected some people, but I would say that the higher percentage were trying as much as it's maybe just all about depicting what people are going through.
Yes.
Not that you're gaining anything from it. So
Okay.
it's up
Are we
there.
going to be seeing more work in this direction from you?
Definitely.
Okay. Well, we're looking forward to it. And I want to open the floor to our audience in case anybody has a question for Sharon. Now would be a good time to kind of put up your hand and we'll get the microphone to you. Yes, a lovely gentleman over there. Please come to join us on the stage. Please come closer, just a little bit, just a little bit. That's good, that's good. So your name and of course the question.
Thank you. My name is Dusi Blaise, and I really loved the film. My question is, so you were, of course, as the theme says, you were inspired by the whole confinement, the pandemic, but now looking at how the world is coping, the vaccination, there's a hope for the future. I'm wondering, what's on your mind now? If you could give us a hint of a project portraying a hopeful, future, what would you say, what is your next project based on how we're dealing with the pandemic? How would you portray a hopeful future? I don't know if it makes sense.
It's a really good question. Okay, thank you so much. So we've seen your take on the beginning of the pandemic, how it affected people. He's saying, how would you paint the now? What would that project look like?
I like that question very much because I asked it to myself, like, okay, now after this, what after this? And as you can see, if you have gone through grief alone, you learn to be more appreciative of who are the friends I could have shared this with if they were here with me.
Yeah.
Or if this is an interest I could have pursued earlier before I had to be confined to know that, oh, hey, I might be passionate about cooking. How can I now start to do these things? Also, something I can talk about is, one of the themes is social relationships, is we can now see that we waste time. We waste a lot of time. And I feel like my next project will be on what did I not see before that I can see clearly now? What can I treasure now that I didn't treasure earlier on? And with the new person that I've become, how best can I do it? Because COVID has not been announced, gone forever yet. What if this thing happens again? How am I going to conduct myself better? How am I going to use what I've learned now to be a better person? I feel like anyone that I talk to every day, every single day, I know that they've become something better, something newer, something stronger. So if I take these same characters and make a movie with them again, I feel like they will make better decisions, or they're much stronger people now. Yes.
Well, it's a good one, huh? You kind of like spend time on showcasing introspection and how sort of the pandemic allows these two individuals to sit with themselves, not only before the breakup, but also after the breakup, to kind of sit with the grief and see where that actually takes them. In this next project, right, that you talk about, will you be taking this story further and portraying that in the positive light and what you're talking about now, or would that be a completely different tale altogether?
That's a very tricky question because I feel
We need you to spill a little bit of. Don't you guys agree? She should give us more, huh? Okay.
if I had to take on this project again, everything has pros and cons. We might be doing a lot better now, but what about those little other side things? Because when you know that I can survive this, you're very likely to do it again.
Yes.
When you've made a mistake before, you're like, I didn't die the first time, so I can do it again. So I would rather yes, I would portray the positive side, but yes, I also want that other side that might not go well, simply because you're telling yourself that, I've survived this before, I can die.
Yeah. The title of this movie, why that particular title? What inspired it?
The title of my movie is Transient, and transient means something fleeting, something impermanent, something you're going through, just like a transit actually. And I chose the title because this is an impermanent time.
Yes.
And every other thing that people were going through was as well impermanent. The relationship was impermanent, the school closing was impermanent, everything in it was not permanent. And I feel like everything that we go through is as fleeting as it can be. Sad moments, happy moments, they all go. So just go with the flow. Everything is fleeting, really.
We only have room for one more short question. Anybody with a burning one, you feel you can't leave this room today without Sharon giving you that answer? Yes, over there at the back. Please come. Hello. If you could tell us your names and, of course, the question.
Hello, my name is Mohozi. I was moved by the film, though I'll put up a quick question. You mentioned about artists not feeling like they've been heard, they've been seen. They could be paid more or realized more, and that kind of touched me. I'm a poet, and lots are written, just like any other young artists out there. What is it that you could tell them? What is it that you could talk to those people that are down there, that are not reached unto, that did not have the opportunity to come here and just share those pieces? Thank you.
That's a good question and was actually going to be my closing question. So, in your parting shots, please.
Yes, thank you very much. That's a very nice question. And poet to poet, keep doing poetry. Poetry is medicine. Poetry is a religion. And what I can say is, anyone who is in the works of passion, we have been, yes, like you said, it's like we are not seen or heard enough, especially in a country as ours, a very young nation, where we had to first rebuild from other areas of a nation, and art is one of the, we are still growing, we're still working there. I started poetry in like 2015 or 16. I'm still as new to this as maybe you are, I don't know. But in anyone who is in the works of the passion, we all understand that it's not something we do for instant gratification. And if there are other artists in this house, I know you know what I'm saying. It's not, you don't get paid enough, or even when you are, it's just like a little percentage of the whole community. What I can say is keep doing it. You might never know where someone sees you, someone may not. And if they do not, validate yourself. You are it yourself, and the world needs more of your work. So don't stop, keep doing it. Someone might see you one day. Yeah.
Very inspiring words there. Ladies and gentlemen, Sharon. Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for creating the project. And I know a lot of people are going to resonate with it. And we hope to just see more from you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Yeah.